Welcome back to TDH, the Devy Hour. We apologize for being off a little bit last week because, it was the NFL draft after all, so you probably had better things to watch than us. With that being said, tonight we're going to have some fun and we're going to talk about some additions to our rankings and just kind of chop it up about our rankings. But first, I got to do the walk of shame. So this one goes to you, Action Jackson, over on YouTube. I don't really know your name. That's just what it says. I appreciate you calling it out. A couple weeks back on the show, I was talking about, smaller quarterbacks and I don't know exactly what I was thinking. I went slightly crazy for a minute there and included CJ Stroud in the conversation. CJ Stroud is nowhere near smaller, dude, 6'3", depending on where you look. So I want to apologize for that. I do enough of these shows that I say plenty of dumb things from time to time. I also make a running joke that I like to say that Jonathan Taylor had decent speed in one of our rookie profiles years ago. So it ain't the first time and it won't be the last time I say something silly, but I do appreciate when our folks that check us out, call it out because I'm not perfect. So that's for you, Action Jackson. I do appreciate you checking it out and joining us and listening and calling it out. So with that being said, now we move on to the show. Des, my brother, how are you, man? How's things going in your world?
I'm good, man. Glad to be on here today. We just getting over, just like you said, getting through the draft and everything last weekend. It was an amazing event that the NFL put on. The annual event is always a good thing. A lot of our Devy prospects that we've been kind of looking at over the years, such as CJ Spiller and Isaiah Spiller and Brees Hall, and you got the wide receivers that was jumping off the board like Drake London and Treylon Burks and all of them, Garrett Wilson, that we've been just looking at for the last couple of years and things. So just to see them fulfill their dreams and get to the NFL, that's what we want. And when we look at these guys when they come in as an incoming freshman or as they prosper and start claiming their role on their college team. So yeah, other than that, just had a subpar week, and I'm glad to be on here tonight. Let's talk some Devy, man.
Ready to get to the weekend. I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Especially, it's not anything to do with football, but we got some movies to see this weekend. I'm going with some friends. We're gonna go see the new Marvel movie and check out the new Doctor Strange and just kind of relax. And because last weekend, like you said, it was hot and heavy for all of us trying to keep up with the draft and doing all that. And especially on the Roto Heat side of things, we're working hard, putting articles together, getting all that content. So it's nice to have a weekend where it can be a little bit more relaxed. This week we are grinding hard as a team trying to get all of our rankings updated. So this week was hard at work getting that going and doing some of that. So I'm just ready to kick back and go check out a movie and do something that isn't football related for a few minutes and and see what happens. But it was a great this has been, and I've been talking to all sorts of people about how great this offseason has been when it comes to just movement, stuff happening, conversations and trades and all that. It's like, it's been insane. And the draft was no different, so it was cool to see. I mean, so many weird things happen, players that, were projected in different spots. And that's the thing I love about the NFL draft is it proves that everybody that says they're an expert or even just people like us that just, talk about it on the regular, we don't know half as much as we think we know because we say something and then the NFL scouts do and the NFL teams do complete opposite,
Yeah. So that was definitely very surprising. I mean, you had the situation with Kenny Pickett being the only quarterback taken in the first round, and then no quarterbacks got taken in the second round. So, like, that's almost as surprising as Kenny Pickett being the only one in the first round, to be honest, to me. But then you had your couple quarterbacks coming off in the third, and I mean, then the trades that went down. I mean, Hollywood Brown being traded to the Cardinals, and the Ravens getting my Ravens getting another first round pick. So I hated to see Hollywood leave. That was my guy, really. But he wasn't a good fit for the that offense, and I think it was a very business-like and strategic move on his end. I just love how they did it, even though you could just tell they had this plan for probably months. when it comes to that trade. And then AJ Brown, oh my goodness, getting traded to the Eagles. Like where did that come from? That was a surprise, man. And you just had some other teams that just drafted really well. I thought that just it was a really, really exciting event, and it never ceases to amaze anybody that watches it. So like I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that I love is that, because of how hot, football is and has become, the day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, you're immediately seeing people start talking about 2023 mock draft, the way too early 2023 mocks. And
Mm-hmm.
you didn't see that a few years ago. You didn't, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably years back, you aren't seeing as many way too early mocks, which gets exactly to where we're at now is the Devy world. These are guys that we've been looking at for probably a year, two, maybe even more. These guys are now, most of the mocks I see, the top couple of quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anderson, the lineman from Alabama. I mean, you're seeing, all these guys that we've been talking about and looking at for a minute now are now the next men up, so it'll be interesting to see how all that goes. I know we're through most spring practices and spring games for most of the universities. So now we're getting to kind of the lull where guys are about to finish up classes for the summer. And then, and you really don't start getting hot and heavy in the conversation for fall ball until, July, August timeframe. So that is where we come in and we get to talk about all these other guys that, that we're going to go even deeper tonight. So I want to talk rankings with you, but we had, you threw me like 5 or 6 names of guys that you wanted to add to the rankings. So I want to start the conversation off that way first. So I want to talk through some of the dudes that you want to add on and talk as much or as little as you want about each one and just give me your take on them. Maybe sell the folks that'll watch this at some point and why that these are guys they want to have on their radar. And I want to start with Kanata Mumfield. The kid is,
wide receiver, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's at Pittsburgh. Well, I have I was looking at his 247 profile earlier, and I was like, he's not a Zip anymore. So I know he went somewhere else. So talk about him. Tell us why you like him, what you like about him, or just whatever you want to talk about with him.
I mean, when you look at a lot of these Devy prospects, and the reason why I kind of he's been on my radar, just because, I mean, if you are in these Twitter or Slack or Discords and things like that, you're gonna see a lot of chatter of like guys that's gonna be, hey, look at these guys, or this is a guy that's pretty solid. And then with him, he transferred to Pittsburgh, and I get it. Like what's my man Pickett? He he went to the league, and you have the situation where Jordan Addison, he was the Blitnikoff winner there. He's still there. Well, not anymore because he's actually in the transfer portal now.
Yep.
With a lot of the controversy with him and things like that because of I can't really touch too much on that right now, but Kanata Muffield, he was a solid player for his former college. I can't remember the name.
Akron. He went to Akron. I was thinking Zips, and I'm like,
he just put up big numbers there. When I looked at a little bit of film that I was able to get on him, he just looked really solid. And then he played really good in the spring game for Pittsburgh, where now that Addison is in the transfer portal, he might be the number one receiver there, and he could be someone that you just want to monitor. I'm not saying go out there and grab him, but if you're in maybe a startup where it's like 10 rounds or something like that, and you want to grab him late, just to be a dart throw, like because a lot of the guys that I'm gonna be talking about are really kind of dart throws, but it's just people that's like I'm going to continue to monitor. So he's one of those guys for me because he produced really well from what I've seen, and if you look at his numbers, you will hope it would translate well. I mean, Keaton Slovis is there, so I'm a little shaky on that because I mean Slovis has been a little up and down, and right now he's not really too favorable because it seems like that maybe Addison is probably leaving because of him. And I hope that's not the case, but I just think it's just a lot of politics with that Addison stuff. But that's why I like Monfield. I mean,
Yeah.
I just think he's a solid producer, and he's on a team where he can come in and be the number one, and maybe a year or so now down the road he could be on your dynasty roster. Why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, he dominated at the MAC, and
Yeah,
typically when you dominate at one of the smaller conferences or one of the conferences that aren't the big ones, you start to get the eyes of some of those big colleges. And Pitt was smart to do it. I think all they really have on their roster now, a wide receiver that you can trust, is what, Jared Wayne, and that's about it. Because
mm,
Addison's gone, and then uh Jacques Louis is gone, I think, as well. I mean, so you needed an influx of talent. So, the transfer portal is a great place to go when you can go get somebody like this who, might not have been highly recruited. And I think he was only like a
right.
three-star prospect coming out, but he got some time to go down to the MAC to develop, to get better in all phases of his whether it's route running, his hands. I mean, this dude, dominated the MAC for the most part. I think from 2020 to 2021, I mean, considerably, you could tell there was growth. So why not? I mean, and Pitt seems like a program that's on the rise. I mean, Pickett kind of, breathed some life into him. Some people were big Slovis fans when he was at USC, coming out of high
Mm-hmm.
school, but I don't, I was always kind of back and forth on whether or not I liked him. So we'll see. It seems like this team knows what to do and they're moving in the right direction. So I'm definitely interested. I'm with you though. When I, when we added him when I threw him in and added him onto the rankings, I was looking at, kind of lower parts of my rankings. I'm like, where do I slide this guy in at? And I'm
Yeah,
like, well, I got to kind of see, I wasn't comfortable just yet sliding any of these new guys onto my top 100. But as I was having the conversation with myself, which I often have as I'm moving players in my rankings, I'm like, I could easily make the case that this dude is better than, you know, 75 through 100 on my ranking. So I'm like, well, but unless I'm 100% confident in that, I'll just wait and give it another month,
yeah.
see how I feel in a month when I keep researching these guys and come back to it. But Mumfield has all the opportunity at Pittsburgh to just come in and light that place up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, honestly, with Devy, I don't think is. I think what I love about it, and I think what makes me really like this platform as far as fantasy, because it's just so many different guys you can go out and scout and look at, and then if you connect and be a part of the right communities and things like that, where you have other guys going out there and they're looking at prospects, and you're having conversation. I mean, on like online and things like that, you start learning about these guys. Because I wouldn't have known about anybody that I'm about to talk about tonight. I wouldn't have known about any of them, just because I wouldn't. I mean, initially, I wouldn't even know where to look
Right.
to get this information, and then at the end of the day, uh you just find the right people that you trust, where if they live in all the parts of the country, and you never know what time people have on their hands. So you
Mhm.
have others that maybe have time where they can look at a lot of prospects, and then if they express that on these Slack or Discords or Twitter and things like that, you start learning about people, and then you come up with your own analysis and your own evaluations, and you just take it from there. And then at the end of the day, you make these picks, and you just it's a dart throw pretty much for fall. There's not too many locks here. You want it to be, you want to feel like, oh man, I hit a home run on all my picks, but it usually doesn't be that way. So that's what I like about it. I just like about looking at different guys, and and just finding out about new players. You know what I mean?
Oh, and to your point, you're absolutely right. In the Pinnacle of Devy League that I'm in, that's just the insanely deep one. We've drafted something like 2,000 players or something at this point.
Yeah.
And Kenny Pickett was in the first round of our rookie draft just now, was the first pick because nobody had picked him. Like, I mean, this
Mhm.
guy, was quiet throughout most of his college career. Last year blew up, and none of us, I mean, all 12 owners that are drafting, all these Devies, none of us picked him. I mean,
Right.
that's the great thing and the crazy thing about Devy at the same time is, like, it doesn't matter. One year could pop off or one year could Spencer Rattler you. I mean, like, it's just you don't know. I mean, anything's possible, and that's the great and the crazy thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk Dontavian Wicks. And Dontavian, if you catch this and I said your name wrong, I do apologize, but I think that's how it sounds. 6'2", he's like 210-ish range wide receiver, Virginia. What do you like about him?
I just like his. I mean, initially it was really his measurables. I just like the size and frame. Um, I just know that offense was pretty explosive last year, so he kind of he made some noise with him and what's the guy quarterback, the Brennan Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't watched too much on him yet. That's one of my guys where like I have to. He's one of those another one like wait and see. Like he's gonna be really at the bottom of my list. But he was one that I just again just being in different forums and things like that. You just start seeing names and hearing names. And you just want to put them out there just for a reminder because even with my list or like how I try to do my rankings, it's like we do what up to 100, right, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest with you, the only ones I can honestly, if you want me to put any kind of money or anything, like the first like couple rounds worth, so like the top maybe 40, 50 that I could probably feel comfortable with. But when you get up to like 50, 60, up to 100, I mean those are really just the guys that you like and things. So that's how I felt about Wicks. I just thought he had a nice measurables and things. And when I looked at how his production was last year with Virginia, and then with Brendan Armstrong, I just thought that he could possibly be a riser. That's one of those guys that I want to like kind of monitor this season, just because he could really come out of nowhere and be one of the top wide receivers in the country, and maybe create some good draft capital for him to be someone. I mean, like the past draft, like I didn't even know who Tyquan Thornton was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not trying to like I know he's been like the body bag the way everybody's come out and been beating him up just because of the pick the Patriots made, but just people like that has just come out of nowhere. So why not when you look at these guys? So he's one of those for me.
Yeah. Well, and you're smart with this one in the sense that like the dude's already produced. So you've
Mm-hmm.
seen something on there and he produced big. I mean, dude had, like 1,200 yards receiving last year. And like 6, 9, something like that, touchdowns wise, and I mean, obviously you can tell he got a fair amount of volume there at Virginia. And with, not amazing quarterback play, he still produced at a high level,
Mm-hmm.
against good competition. It's not like Virginia's facing, scrubs. So it's definitely, I mean, it's an educated guess on your part, and it feels like a good educated guess because you've already seen production at the collegiate level. So with how many, I mean, think about this year's draft class, how many wide receivers got drafted and how many receivers will get drafted next year. Like
Yeah.
a guy like this fits. I mean, he's over 6'1". I thought I saw somewhere said he's 6'2". Some places say 6'1". So somewhere in that range. So he's got good size for a receiver. Obviously, big play guy. He's averaging over 20 yards a catch. Got 1,200 yards receiving. So, man, I'm with you, man. It's not a guy that I was digging too much, but once you brought his name up, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a look. And then once I saw the numbers and measurables, I'm like, all right, Des is
Yeah.
onto something. I gotta take a peek, see this dude. And there's another one that is not drafted in even my deepest of Devy league. So it's like,
Yeah, he's not
take a
getting
peek.
picked up. He's not getting picked up at all. That's why I said he's definitely further down the list. He's not one of the guys that you would be really jumping up to get because I mean most Devy leagues, I mean you have what 5 to 10 rounds maybe at the most of if you're
Right.
doing a startup. So you're not he's not even going to be considered. It's just somebody to put on the side and monitor and look at it and kind of see what the NFL and that's the thing about Devy too, because like your Devy players are not getting you any points other than like a C2C league where you're getting the points. But Devy,
Mm-hmm.
you're just you're looking for value. So the most valuable Devy prospects that you can get on your roster is the best because then you can manipulate and work it how in trades and stuff like that to make your NFL roster what it a championship roster. So that's what I kind of look at. So you got to look at what like the NFL wants, and like it showed this past draft that they can switch up anytime, and it shows that other players can get value and or lose value in a span of a couple days.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Justin Ross, dude's
Yeah.
got probably
Oh
one of
my
the best
goodness.
profiles in the draft and doesn't get
Oh my
drafted.
goodness.
But then the rich get richer because he goes to KC. It's like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, that was absolutely. I was a little shocked over that because just like I said, he had one of just like you said one of the best profiles. When I first got into Devy, he was one of the first names that I heard about. I mean, just a phenomenal freshman season, and just unfortunate of the medical situations that he had. So of course that that's what would dropped him and even had him being an undrafted free agent. So hopefully, I mean, I don't want to. I hate to say hopefully he prospers in the Kansas City, and I really don't want to do that as a fan because just Kansas City's been so successful. But no, you do. You hope for the best for the guy, man. And so I was glad that he did get drafted, but he definitely was one of the ones that I'd first heard about, and it was surprising that he didn't get drafted.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, when you say 101 rookie, you got to elaborate for me, brother. Welcome and elaborate so that I can answer your question appropriately. I don't want to steer you wrong. And you're absolutely right there, and that's a tough thing. I do want to, we're going to switch it up just a little bit. We're going to keep talking about the new guys to the board, but I also want to bring on our rankings just for anybody that does catch it and is watching at some point. We have over on rotoheat.com, we got rankings. We got rankings galore. If you go to the site, you can see our rankings, and we got rankings for everything IDP, Devy, the whole shebang. So we're going to touch on, and I'm just going to shoot over to our Superflex rankings just to kind of get the ball rolling, and then we'll bounce back and talk about some more of our guys. These rankings will be updated this week. I'm not entirely sure if they are, if these ones are the most recent, but they are going to be here in a hot minute updated because I know we've been working this week about getting them done. And what you're seeing is, just like Des mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, probably our top, 50. Now this is just Superflex, but we have one QB as well. I mean, so you can get a little bit of both. In Superflex, our top 50 or so, we're feeling pretty solid about. He's talking regular NFL. Sorry, my bad, dude. So I know in the rookie drafts that I've been a part of so far, Breece Hall's still going at 1.
Yeah.
I don't blame you for taking a receiver at 1. If you earned the 101, it's probably because your team needs to build that core up. So I wouldn't hate on you taking wide receiver. You can really go either way with it, though. Both players are going to be core pieces of your team, but how long are you building out? Which one would you take first, Des? Are you taking Drake London? You taking Breece Hall?
It's definitely Breece Hall. I'm definitely taking him just because it's hard really to find those 3 down running backs. I get it that Michael Carter's there and things like that, but I'm going with it. The Jets, I honestly feel like the Jets killed the draft. They made some really, really good picks.
Excellent.
Just some pieces where you just feel really comfortable that they're really trying to make some moves. I mean, it all comes down to Zach Wilson, of course. But
does.
Yeah, but if I was to be out there and I had the 101, I would not think differently than grabbing Breece Hall. But I just like you said, I wouldn't knock anybody that went out and grabbed Drake London. I mean, he went to a really nice spot too. He should walk right into, a lot of opportunity and things like that. Even with Kyle Pitts being there, and I mean they do have Mariota and Desmond Ridder did get drafted there, whatever the case may be. But Drake London did walk into a really, really gifted opportunity for a wide receiver. So, it's like it's a flip of a coin. I don't think you could go wrong either way, though. To be honest, you couldn't. I mean, you're gonna see it maybe later on down the road once you see production in a couple years in the league and things. But I don't think you can go wrong with either one right now. At the moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, when I'm drafting those spots, in whether it's Devy 101 or just a regular super flex or 1QB 101, I'm looking, okay, if I earn that pick, and I have a couple leagues where I've earned that pick, I'm like, how do I set my roster up to be successful and have a strong core now and in the next 3-4 years? And unfortunately, with running back shelf life, you got to be careful there. I mean, and that's where I always kind of err on the side of, let me give me the guy that could probably survive my rebuild. If it takes me 2-3 years, by the time I hit that 2-3 year window, is my running back still going to be able to be on my team? Because he's already hit the 3-4 year window. And so I always think about that in the equation. In this draft, it's tough just because the value is, the elite value is really only with a few players. So you kind of have to take one of them, whether it's a London or Berkshire, whoever you feel like is that. I've heard people argue Garrett Wilson. I've heard people argue Breece Hall, Drake London, Treylon Burks, and even Jamison Williams, even though the injuries kind of keeps knocking about. So it's kind of like the tier of, okay, these are the top guys to pick from. So
yeah, I agree.
So that being said, so over on rotoheat.com, we got all our rankings, and even, Jay, I appreciate you jumping in, brother. We got rankings for everything. So if you need some help, we got you covered with rankings for everything, rookie specifically, startups, all that jazz. So, so this is our Devy rankings, and you can see that even in a super flex situation, we are still, leaning running back here. I mean, which could support your Breece Hall theory, because even with Superflex, we've all basically got very similar between the four of us. We got very similar takes. Now, obviously, Craig is still leaning the two quarterbacks first and second, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. But we all have those guys within the top, the top 7. It looks like, no, 8. Jason's got him at 8. So in the top group, you've got some quarterbacks, you got some running backs, receiver, Jackson Smith and Jig. But the Ohio State team will be interesting to watch this year, because now you've gotten, Olave and Wilson are out the door. So now you got to see the young guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Smith and Jigba, and so it'll be fun to watch, see how that offense does going into this season. So I want to point out these rankings, but then I also now we're going to jump back and we're going to talk about Jamarion Miller, running back, Alabama. Alabama, as always, is just stacked to the gills. They got Jamar Gibbs via the transfer portal, I think, this offseason. But they also have Jace McClellan, Trey Sanders, Roydell Williams. So, but Jamarion Miller is a very different running back. So tell me about him. Tell me what you like about him.
Well, of course, Bama just continues to bring in just quality high school prospects. And the first thing that kind of intrigued me about him is he just had a different kind of play style where just very smooth runner. Just between the tackles, he had good speed. He could look like he could do inside and outside from what I've seen on his high school tape. But then you look at it as well, where you have Bama just bringing in just talent, and you can be a little concerned just because they always bring in multiple running backs. Like they do have another running back that's not mentioned here, but that's also a freshman. But I mean, and one of the other freshmen that they did have, Cam Wheaton, he actually transferred out. So that's one person that's kind of out of there for him. But from what I like, he's just a solid, just really solid build. Looked like an explosive running back where he can be a very good piece for that offense, depending on how so it's weird with saving too, because how their offense is weird every year. Like they can have someone like Mac Jones, and then they'll have somebody like Bryce Young, and even next year they have Ty Simpson that's coming in there. That's another freshman quarterback, but then they still have like Jalen Milroe that's still there. So like they may even have like, if Jalen Milroe is the starter next year, because of course Bryce Young is going to go to the league, of course, Jalen Milroe is a totally different quarterback than Bryce Young is. He's more of a runner. I mean, I don't think he's as good of a thrower and things like that. But he really, I mean, he played really good in the spring game. So,
Mm-hmm.
and even with Jamarion Miller, he played really well as far as what I've seen. And I just think he could be a good solid piece as far as a freshman to look out for. You always will want to get a piece of any of the guys that come in for Bama because you never know which one's going to hit. And that's how we do it with Devy. Just like I said, these are guys that you're going to grab either late or you're going to be just marking them on a spreadsheet or something on the side and just looking out for them and maybe trying to jump on get some draft picks for next year's draft and grabbing them in the draft where other league mates are probably aware of these people because they're just not diving as deep. And I'm not even trying to say that's deep. It's just like I said, these are names I've just been hearing, and a lot of people get excited about the freshmen coming in. It's just like rookies. So it's like rookies with dynasty managers and with Devy managers. It's all about the freshmen and with them coming in and just the new fresh talent that's coming in that you could probably pick up on your roster. Because if you're ones like me where I try to get a good amount of Devy picks in my drafts, I'm usually trying to come out with like maybe 5 or 6 extra picks. Just because I just want to jump on all the new guys, and for each year it makes it worse for any kind of rookie draft, and just like I said, you can always use that for trade. So, but yeah, not to be rambling too much on. He's a beast. So
well,
look out.
to support you, this is just part of his athletic background. As a freshman in high school, ran 11:06 in track, and then as a junior ran, and that's the 100. Sorry. And then as a junior, he ran 10:71 in the 100, but he also competes in the 4x100 and the 4x200. Dude has got some wheels, and he is like you said, he's a different style of cat that they have back there. Because normally, you think of their running backs, Brian Robinson, Derrick Henry, you get these big, massive, beastly running backs, where this dude, I mean, I think he's 5'11", 5'10", something like that. Think MJD, but faster. I mean, that's kind of what I think when I watch him. I mean, MJD is probably more physical. He's probably a bit stronger, but Alabama loves their big power back. So if this kid stays in the program, I mean, and that's the tough thing is when a freshman comes in, especially at a school like Alabama, how quickly do they transfer out if they realize they're not going to be the man and not really move up quick? I mean, you're seeing even with, like you said, with Cam, he was one of the higher running back recruits coming out of high school, and he bounced. He's like, I'll go somewhere else, So it's like, does this kid stay? Who knows? But he's definitely got the athletic profile. So that's, a good thing going for him.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, let's go Clemson. Let's go Adam Randall, wide receiver, Clemson. Clemson's a wide receiver factory over the last, 5-10-ish years. So tell me about him. 4-star prospect in the 2022 class. What are you thinking about him? What's your gut tell you about this kid?
Well, he's another one that's like a big bodied, physical kind of specimen wide receiver that just when I first heard about him and started watching a little bit of this tape, he just looked like a man amongst boys. He just was always physically imposing on the defense, where like he just it seemed like he just was unguardable. I get it. High school, the high school competition may not be fully up to par and things like that, but so it's kind of hard to really gauge it with a lot of these prospects. But he just has the whole frame, again, the size, speed. He can play inside, outside. They had him doing all kind of things in high school. And he's another freshman. Unfortunately,
he tore that ACL.
Which hurts, but I don't get worried about that no more. I trust the athlete, the person. I just trust the medicine that's going to get him back good, and I just trust that he's that good of a player, because he was getting so many rave reviews in camp at Clemson. He was doing really well. As far as just they really expected him to come and actually start this year for Clemson. So that's really sad that happened to him. But I mean, minor setback to a major comeback for him. I think that he's a guy that you should definitely look out for. A lot of people may be thrown off because he torn the ACL and think that is, writing him off. Anybody that's kind of been on him. But I just think he's just that kind of guy, man. They was really comparing him to a lot of good, like a lot of prospects that came out of, like, they was like comparing them to like Sammy Watkins. And of course you could say anything about Sammy Watkins' NFL career. When he was in college, he was ridiculous. So just that comparison and him just being one of those top freshmen coming in and just being rated that way. He just was getting so many rave reviews. I was so devastated when I heard about that. But he'll come back and be good, and that's somebody you should definitely want. And just definitely look out for.
Yeah, and as we were talking about it, I was just looking to see kind of what the timetable was, because it happened it happened a month before. So what is this? Yeah, it's been a minute, and and they're reporting here on Fansided that Dabo says it was the best case scenario, and they're still believing that it's not impossible for him to be back week 1. So,
that's crazy.
The medicine is just insane these days. I mean, the way, like you said, trust the medicine, because ACLs. I mean, look at Detroit took a top 15 receiver who's in the midst of an injury, and they're not worried about it at all. So if that's the case, and this is a high profile college, which Clemson is, they got some of the best, I'm sure, in the business. He'll be fine, and they'll get him back on the field, and he'll be ready to go as soon as possible. And they need him. I mean, quite honestly, they need that big physical presence, because that's part of Clemson's identity, is those big physical receivers that can either take the top off the defense or just manhandle you and go get the ball. I mean, they need that type of receiver, and he fits that perfectly. So I'm 100% with you that if you can get this kid and stash him, do it, because he's, he could be the next great Clemson receiver.
Yep.
Okay, so this one is a fun one, because I love the Washington State offense. It loves to throw the ball. So let's talk Cameron Ward. He's 6'3", 220-pound quarterback that is currently with Washington State Cougars. What are you thinking about this kid? How are you feeling about it? I know he's from Texas. Texas loves to produce some quarterbacks. So tell me about it.
He's probably one of the most interesting guys, and it's funny that you chose to speak about him last, because he's probably the one that I would be considering in my Devy drafts at a good pick, just because of the upside. And I mean, he transferring to Washington State. And just like I said, being in that offense, he could really light up college football. You want to find, and I hate to say it because everybody's talking about, find the next Tyreek Hill, find the next Debo, or find the next Kenny Pickett. I look at Cameron Ward, where he's somebody that he's been talked about briefly a little bit in the Devy circles that I be in. But it's somebody to kind of monitor, where he just has the size and frame, he has the intangibles and things like that to be a solid quarterback. And all you need is one, solid year where it just shows that you can be the guy, and the NFL will consider you. Now, they definitely showed us a good change this on the last draft, just because of where the quarterbacks got picked up. And I'm not saying Cam Ward is on the level of the guys that was in the draft this year. I definitely looked at Corral and Pickett and others, the other guys that was in there a little bit higher than him at the moment, but he's one of the guys that could kind of come out of nowhere and just light it up and show you why he should be considered as a top Devy guy. Where I was looking at in this offseason, where just getting some picks, it was probably between him and Anthony Richardson that I was comfortable picking as far as Devy. I don't really like picking quarterbacks too much because it's just hard to evaluate them. I like taking dart throws from time to time, And he was just so intriguing. When you hear about somebody enough, you got to just start taking some shots, and that's kind of how I felt about Cam Ward. So, I think the sky's the limit when you're in that offense like that, and if you just have a solid season, he can go in and really raise his draft stock to be a solid pick in the NFL, and it could give you some good draft capital on your dynasty roster.
Oh, I mean, and look at what that Mike Leach offense did for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew transferred over there, wound up getting some action in the NFL, and is still hanging around. I mean, and he doesn't, and I'm not comparing Ward to Minshew. Ward has, I think, arguably a better arm. He can throw. From what I've seen, he was one that I had to start digging into, getting ready for the show, so that I could not look ridiculous having no clue who the kid was. He transferred from Incarnate Word, which is an FCS program, to Washington State this year, and he walks into a starting job. I mean, they don't, Washington State was empty of quarterback. I can't even think of the word that I'm thinking of, but they didn't have a quarterback that was really worth playing. And this is a junior transfer. I mean, so in most Devy leagues, you can draft this kid, put him on your roster now, because he will be in the league within a year or two. I mean, and when he was at Incarnate Word, the dude put up like almost 5,000 yards last year, and he's going to come to a very high-powered offense that throws the ball a bunch, and he's going to, I bet I would not be surprised if he gets another 4,500, 5,000 yards passing, and and then dips to the NFL. Like, if he did that, I would not be surprised in the least. So why not take a chance on a kid like this? Because how many times have you drafted somebody in Devy and he don't make it to the league, or he makes it to the league and it's just kind of a depth guy? I mean, how many people had Isaiah Spiller stashed and they were super pumped, and now he goes to watch Austin Eckler,
Me.
Right? So, why not take a shot on a quarterback? That's all I'm saying. This kid's definitely intriguing. Got the size, got the arm. He's not much of a runner. Like, when I was looking through his stats, I mean, he got some rushing touchdowns, but he wasn't running them a lot. So I don't know what to make of that part of his game. I can't speak on it, but what I can say is, why not? I mean, he's going to get a ton of action, so he's going to throw a bunch. So it's probably just as worthy a shot as some of these other guys that you don't even know. I mean, would you rather have Cam Ward right now or Keaton Slovis, right? Like, Keaton Slovis was a top pick.
Right.
I'd probably go with Ward, honestly.
Because it's like going from, especially with Devy, it's about the unknown than the known. Because if you know what you're getting, just like you said with Keaton Slovis, nothing against him, but he's shown what it is. Devy is all when you have someone like Cam Ward and Devy, it's the unknown. It's like you want to see if this guy could be the guy. You know what I mean? When you have, when everybody says situations matter and things change and Devy values change at the drop of a dime, with him just transferring to Washington State and in that offense and things like that, it gives them some kind of intrigue that you want to look into this guy. And just like I said, I don't want to. If anybody could come at me and we could talk about the top, just like I said, the top 30, 50 or whatever, and we can have a battle between who should be where and all that. After that, it's more about, we just need to really just kind of get these evaluations and start finding these diamonds in the rough. And he could be a diamond in the rough. That's the best part about Devy to me. We can all be so confident about Bijan Robinson. We can all be confident about Kayshon Boutte and JSN and things like that. To find the ones that I admire, the ones that picked Kenny Pickett. You know what I'm saying?
They're few and far between.
You know what I'm saying? Like they won last weekend because he got the draft capital. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not in the NFL to lose. They are a winning organization. So they're going to put him in the best position for him to win. So anybody that had Kenny Pickett or was able to draft him in their rookie drafts, because a lot of people didn't even have him in as far as that. You won this past weekend. You literally did. In regards to what he does, I mean, you hope he goes out there and play. But like I said, you want to get them diamonds in the rough. That's the ones that makes it worth playing, Devy, for me. Just because you have a good feeling about the top guys. Everybody's talking about the top guys all the time. It's about finding them sneaky guys, the sleepers.
Oh, easily. I mean, and that's the thing that sets you apart is, and I mean, there's educated guessing to it, but in the end, it's you got lucky, because
Yeah.
most of the time the top guys, everybody's got them top guys, but who can find that sleeper that you stash and really it hits hard and you hit a home run with it? I mean, that's where the luck comes into it, because we all prepare. I mean, like I said, we got our rankings up on the site, and we all are very similar on a lot of these top guys,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little different order, but we've all got a lot of the similar guys on here. 9 times out of 10, who knows what's going to happen? Like our top 10, 15, 20 guys, a lot of them are probably going to get drafted for sure because they all
Mm-hmm.
have the talent, the pedigree, whatever. But that doesn't mean they're going to be a huge success. I mean, we could easily just as much swing and miss on half these guys. I mean, injury, situation, whatever, because this time last year, we would have had Isaiah Spiller up here. We would have had Justin Ross up here. We'd have had guys that something happened, whether it's position, injury, whatever, so that's where I'm like, and that's why I try not to argue too much with people on rankings, on Devy related rankings. I'll argue with you on the other stuff if you want, but Devy related, it's like, yeah, like I'm not gonna fault you if you're a guy. Like I was talking to one guy that still got Spencer Rattler highly rated. Like he's like, I still really like Rattler and I hope it works for him. I'm like, well, that's great. You do, and I'm sure there's others that do. I mean, like what's the use of arguing over this stuff, because it's all a guess right now. I mean, like none of us really know.
It is a guess, and I truly appreciate the Roto Heat team and the Roto Heat family to bring me in to be able to do these things and just to kind of get my thought processes and things like that when it comes to looking at prospects, because I've been playing Devy leagues for a couple years, and this is just therapeutic for me. It's more or less like just trying to put my process on paper or on the site and things like that. So doing rankings are hard. It's really hard. I'm very indecisive, man. Like I was sitting in there and I completed my super flex rankings, and then I went over to the one QB and I said, man, this is like, now I gotta reevaluate what I just did. And I mean, like the rankings is really hard because you want to, because especially when you have it like on a site that we have here with RotoHeat, that you have so many people coming on here and they're looking at these things because they're in these drafts and they want to make sure they're picking the right people and things. So doing rankings is hard, man. So like I just like you said, I don't like arguing with anybody when it comes to this. Like if you say that guy's good, then you got it. Like I feel you, and then maybe I need to go back and look at it, and then I'll come up with my own evaluation whether I agree or I'll continue to disagree. But for the most part, you can't go against, like just like we were just saying, it's just like the top 30 or 50 or the case may be. But when you get past that, it's like, come on, man, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. Like, there's too many prospects out here. There's too many people that can come out of nowhere that just could be really good for your team and things. So I just love the chatter and bouncing, ideas and things like that with other people that just taking their time to go in and dive in and find these guys, because it takes a lot of time to do that. Like we have a lot going on in the world today, and a lot of people don't have time to do a lot of these things. So for you to be able to go in and do this and take some time to do that, I salute you, because this is
takes a lot.
Yeah, it's a grind.
Well, and
but we love it though. We love it though. This is why we do this. This is just like I said. This is therapeutic. I'm not complaining now. Let me get that clear.
When I started doing RotoHeat, my goal was always to make a career being in this industry, being in football in some way, shape, or form, because I love it. Like unfortunately for me, as good as I was in high school playing ball, I blew my knee out and I couldn't go any further. So this is like the next best thing for me. Like I follow it. I love it. I dig into it, and I appreciate the people that come, like, our site's been popping off. That's why we're trying to get all our stuff updated immediately. Because, we've had, I mean, like these Devy rankings haven't been up all that long. We got 7,000 views of them, like people are checking this stuff out, looking for the help. And, and that's what we try to do. We try to help them. But in the end, this is all our educated guesses based on what we think. I mean, this is anyone that does rankings, I always encourage them to encourage their people that check their stuff to say, listen, this is what I think at this moment in time. Like, use this as a tool to help you figure out your own, because even I kid you not, I got at least half a dozen DMs just this afternoon alone about, hey, I'm on the clock in my draft. This is kind of where my guys are. This is what my team looks like. What do you think I should do?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, these are your options. This is what I would do. But in the end, you have to be happy with your squad.
Absolutely.
So when you're done with your draft, if you're happy with your squad, then I did my job. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you got to have fun with it. And that's the most part. That's the best part about it. Like, so don't be afraid to make that trade. Don't be afraid to make that pick. And if you feel confident in that player, go make your pick, get your guy, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. And once you win a championship, then you'll get the gratification of just having those guys on your roster. But it's all a learning process. When you venture into, when you dive in a lot deeper when it comes to fantasy football, where you start off with like the redrafts, and then you go into Dynasty, you have the best ball, you have DFS, you have Devy, you have C2C. Once you dive a little bit more in it, it takes more time. You gotta be, or less you're just, I tell everybody, you're either gonna take your time to at least give this some attention to be solid and productive, or you're going to be donating your money every year to the pot to the winner. So what do you want to do? Like, you can go in and if this is something you just want to do every year, and by all means, it's fine. But if you want to go and you want to win, give a little bit more attention to the platform you're playing with, and especially with Devy, you're diving in a lot more. You're looking into kind of college prospects and things like that. So take a little time with that. You'll get to your rookie drafts and it'll be so easy. And then you have guys like Brad and me and the other Roto Heat team and things like that. And anybody you meet on like Twitter and things that you can bounce these ideas. But I think that at the end of the day, pick your guys and just have fun. That's what been the best part about Devy for me, because I've been blessed to be in a couple leagues where just like everybody's about having fun. It's been very active. You have some good league mates and everything. And if you get with some like-minded people that's interested in that, the league will last. I mean, I've been one of my first Devy leagues. We're going in year 4, man. And when I first joined that league, I never thought I would be in that league for 4 years. Never. Because I had a terrible, terrible first year, let me tell you. So, like, I had one of my Devy picks was Tanner Morgan, and I don't even want to. I don't feel good about that. Yeah, I know.
But you know what? He looked promising for a minute, and that was the minute where you hit select, and
right. Dang. So it was like it was rough. That was one of my first Devy picks. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you come a long way from there, and I've gotten a whole lot better. So I always tell anybody that's like looking to even get into it, like, give it a chance and just dive in and do it. I mean, if you're listening to this or looking at our rankings, that you're showing some interest, so go ahead and do it.
Yep. And that's it. I mean, that's put it best. So I'm not going to add any more onto it. That is the show for this evening. That is this week's edition of TDH, and we do appreciate you guys hanging out and jumping in the chat and asking questions and just having conversations. And that's what we're about. You can find both of us over on Twitter. You can find us. We got rotoheat.com. There's a Facebook community. There's a Discord community where we have Devy. We have all those things. So we're here to help. We definitely do appreciate each and every one of y'all that are a part of the Roto Heat family. League drafts are upon us. So if you guys need help, hit us up. Like I said, just a few minutes ago, I get guys messaging me like crazy, asking questions, getting opinions, this, that, and the other. So we're here to do, we're here to serve. We're here to help in whatever way we can. Des is always my brother. I do appreciate your time this evening, and I do always love chit chat with you. These hours go by so quickly.
I know.
Talk. So we're going to do a mock Devy, we're going to do some Devy mocks coming up here. We're going to get Jason and the guys involved with the team. So we'll be doing those over the next few weeks. I also know, it's in the midst of rookie draft season. So those schedules will look a little different, so it'll be Thursdays, but it may not be week after week. It may be one mock this week, something else, then another mock. I don't know. We'll see. So stick it here. Make sure you subscribe, do all the things that I tell you to do most of the time you see me on here. Thank you guys always. Des, thank you, brother. We will talk to you again next week.